found this article, and it's by a woman who's concerned because she has several young children, I think, school-age kids, and she's realizing that in this day and age, kids have a lot of stuff. They just get given so much stuff. They have so many choices. It's hard for them not to think that the world owes them all that kind of stuff. So she wrote this article, and it's called "How to Give Your Kids Everything But a Sense of Entitlement." How to give your kids everything but a sense of entitlement. Her name is Jen Choi. And so she particularly thought she needed to focus on two things that kids really value a lot: food and toys. And so it's actually quite a good article. So if you want, I can help you find it. But so there's this isn't about the toys one. I'm just going to tell you a bit about what she found out, and she tried out with respect to food. She says this: for my eldest son, a 9-year-old, we laid out a mission to grill our July 4th barbecue cheeseburgers. As we began our very first step, buying food, I suddenly understood how this could work. In the butcher shop, my son asked me where the round circle hamburgers were. He had no idea what ground beef really looked like or how it was made. I was ashamed. And then I showed him. At home, he donned his personalized apron and got to work, cracking eggs and kneading the meat with his bare hands. I thought he would be grossed out, but he was beaming with pride. He formed and grilled the patties, sliced the tomatoes, and babysat his burgers, feeling scared occasionally from the heat on the grill. I don't think I have ever seen my son eat a burger so fast in his life. He watched all of us eat ours too. He was so grateful, he even washed the dishes. I put that in italics because I think, wow. So this mom is onto something, right? She's onto something. She's something about the hands-on, the getting involved with, the participating in, the pitching in part, a raised awareness in her child and gratitude. So not only did he enjoy the burger more, and gobbled it down really fast, he was thankful for it. Now I think technically the opposite of grateful or thankful is ungrateful and unthankful, right? But that's too easy. So I was thinking about this. I think the opposite of a grateful or thankful person is a person with a sense of entitlement. Okay, so that's kind of my thesis today. The opposite of a grateful or a thankful person is a person with a sense of entitlement. Of course, none of us here today have any of that sense of entitlement, I'm sure. Because, well, we're here, so we're thankful. I mean, we're expressing our thanks, we're giving thanks by participating in the worship of God. But if we have some sense of entitlement, and people in our world have a lot of that in various places, we think we deserve what we've got. So for some reason or other, we think, well, we work so hard, harder than everybody else, so we're a cut above the grade, or we have more money, so we are obviously more privileged, we're better, we're at a different level, so we should, of course, receive things that maybe others wouldn't get. We should probably be the first in the line, We have that sense for a lot of different reasons. We can think, well, we're in one of the wealthiest, best places. I just heard a statistic this past week, I think it was, or the past 2 weeks, that Canada is number 4 in places to live if you're a senior. Yeah. That's not taking into account how cold it gets, just all the other stuff, healthcare. So, interesting. So I mean, we may have a sense of entitlement because we're in such a superb country, or we speak the right language, or we have the right religion or something. And I'm almost of a view that gratitude, if there's a thankometer and there's an entitleometer, they go up and down against one another, right? So the more sense of entitlement you have because you're super important or super famous or whatever, the less gratitude you're likely to have. And the opposite, if your sense of entitlement goes down, your sense of gratitude goes back up. And you're a grateful, thankful, humble person. That kind of makes sense? Yeah. Maybe you can think about that. So if there's one thing to take away today is that we may pray that our sense of entitlement will be decreased. Because it tends to be a very unconscious thing. I notice it in myself often, and more lately I think, oh, that thought I'm having, that's I think I'm super special for some reason. And if we look for it, God will check us with that, and that's a healthy thing for us and good thing for us. The social psychologist Paul Piff conducted 5 experiments to investigate the associations between social class, entitlement, and narcissism. So they're all kind of related. Social class, sense of entitlement, and narcissism. Narcissism seems to be almost getting more and more epidemic in our world. It's a word you hear a lot more and more. We heard a CBC special on it a couple of weeks ago. And so a narcissist is someone who kind of just thinks the world revolves around them. They are the focus of attention. Look at me, everybody. They like the mirror kind of thing, and the attention. So, but that's very much related to a sense of entitlement, isn't it? The first experiment consisted of a survey that measured levels of entitlement and socioeconomic status. Piff found higher social class was associated with an increased sense of entitlement. What a surprise. Upper class individuals were more likely to believe they deserved special treatment and feel entitled to, quote, more of everything. They were also more likely to believe that if they were on the Titanic, they would deserve to be on the first lifeboat. In our story that was read today, I think it was Marilyn read this story, right? Yeah, I was coming in the door there. So were you the reader? Yeah, okay. Luke tells us of the story of the 10 lepers. 10 lepers, and they see Jesus coming down the road, and they go to greet him from afar. Now, they're unclean people. They're not supposed to get into contact with healthy people, so they're pushed out of their communities. Still this way in parts of the world today, but in Jesus' day it was very common. They're in between, on the border between Samaria, which is where the Samaritans live, and Galilee, where the Jews are living. So it sounds like this is a mixed crowd, but maybe predominantly Jewish. And so they call Jesus, they say, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." They've heard something about him, and they're looking for help. He says, "Go show yourselves to the priests." That's weird. But if you understand, so in the Old Testament law, the law of Moses, one of the things, there are all kinds of regulations about health and about skin diseases or leprosy, those kinds of things. So if you were to go outside the camp, and then if it seemed like you got better, you were to go and check with the priest, and the priest would inspect you and see if your sores and your lesions and things were going in the right direction. So that's what Jesus is referring to. Go show yourselves to the priests. And as they went, they were cleansed. One of them, one of the 10, when he saw he was healed, came back praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him, and he was a Samaritan. This guy is full of gratitude. I mean, he is so tickled that he's got his life back. He's been excommunicated from his community and his family. He's been forced to live on the fringe. And now he can go back, and he just has this sense of, he's shouting, he has no control over himself. He's bellowing and yelling, and he throws himself, prostrates himself at Jesus' feet and thanks him. Jesus has 3 questions. Jesus likes to ask a lot of questions if you read the Gospels. He says, "Were not all 10 cleansed?" Well, yeah. 2, "Where are the other 9? Not here. Was no one found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner? Apparently not. Then he said to him, "Rise and go, your faith has made you well." So there's a couple of implications here. Hidden in the story is, it looks like the other 9 were probably from the Galilee side. They were the Jewish bunch, or mostly. Anyway, Jesus is narrowing in on the point that this guy was a foreigner. In other words, he's a Samaritan. He loved to needle his own people, which were the Jews, because they had a very strong sense of entitlement. We are the chosen ones, the chosen people. We're better than everybody else, for Pete's sake. God chose us. And so it would appear, the indicator, the implication in the story is that they felt that they got healed partly because they deserved it. God's chosen people. And Jesus is bringing that kind of out by saying, no one came except the foreigner. But the foreigner, because he didn't have such a sense of entitlement, he didn't feel he deserved it, he was just full of gratitude, full of thanks, and just awe. He was in awe that this had happened to him. Now, a further implication of this is that Jesus commends the guy that comes back and thanks. So Jesus is impressed or pleased, at least, with the fellow that comes back and gives thanks. And by extension, what Jesus is telling us is that God is pleased when we give thanks. And God is delighted with our hearts of thankfulness. And we'll get back to that. So what is it about gratitude? There's something about gratitude, especially, I mean, we may be grateful inside ourselves and keep it to ourselves, but if we express it, if we thank people, we write them cards, we say words to them, and we express our gratitude, this is one of the lubricants of community life, is it not? Is that not one of the things that makes things move a whole lot more smoothly? You know, and so in family life or in group life, if we thank each other for the things that we do for one another, it just makes a huge world of difference. And most of us, hopefully all of us maybe, have learned that to be true. It's this crazy lubricant that kind of greases the wheels of community life. That doesn't sound good, but I think you get my meaning. And it's got to be more than politeness. I mean, it's one thing to say, oh, thank you, just kind of rotely say thank you, but it's kind of another thing, and hopefully this is our thing, of doing it from the heart. That means we're valuing and affirming someone else and their contribution. We're valuing and affirming another person and their contribution. And that, my friends, is love. That's love. And it makes us happy when people do that, right? If someone thanks you from their heart, genuinely, it gives you a good sense. It gives you a good feeling. You're happier, which I think is interesting. It means that we all have the power to make other people happy just by being thankful for what they do. So you and I have the power to make other people happier. All the time, so much of the time, almost every day. So, back to our 9-year-old. So Jen Choi's son. She could just teach her 9-year-old, and she probably did, to say thank you, right? When you get a burger, what do? What do you say? Well, you say thank you for the burger. That's one thing. But now the kid knows how to make a burger, knows what it takes to make the burger, and knows something of the price and the value and the worth of it. When someone gives him a burger from now on, he's going to be heartily thankful, is he not? I think so. So everyone will probably agree with this, that it's a good thing to be thankful, and that it greases the relationships. It makes them go smoother, and it's good to understand the inside of what somebody else has put, the effort they've put into something. And so they would agree with much of this, even my atheist friends. But it's when we start to say this, even so, we need to thank God. In the same way, we should be thanking God. That's where they have a problem. And first, they don't believe there is a God. So if there's no God to thank, why would you thank one, right? So that's the first problem. But second, here's a question I get asked. If this God is so wonderful, so good, so loving, so kind of powerful, why is he so needy? Why does he have to be thanked? Why does he have to be worshipped? Why does he need to be praised? Which is the thing that you Christians always seem to be on about. So the implication is that our God must be kind of an awfully needy God, or very narcissistic, or very self-centered or something, right? Because he's always commanding us to worship him and love him and stuff. You got atheist friends that throw that one at you? You need to get out there, because that's what they say. I really am working with a fellow that he challenged me with that. And it's a good question, because they're right. They're right. Of course he doesn't need us to do that. Of course he doesn't. I mean, this is the God who is eternal, who is absolute, has absolute power, and within himself he has everything he needs. He has got all the joy and all the purpose and everything that you could possibly need. He doesn't need us to do those things. However, it clearly gives him pleasure when we thank him. And I think that's a good point. I think we don't understand and maybe don't realize that you and I can actually give pleasure to the almighty, everlasting God. We can give him pleasure. The Bible clearly says it over and over again. It says, such and such and such, and this pleases God. You ever stop to think about that? This pleases God. So for instance, Psalm 147:11, the Lord takes pleasure in those who fear him or respect him, in those who hope in his steadfast love. If we hope in his steadfast love, this pleases him. In other words, put it another way, this gives him pleasure. So for us, since we've received all this, basically we've talked about it with the kids and we've talked about it in our songs, everything that we have in our, not just the pumpkin pie and the turkey and the really good dressing and the cranberries, maybe a glass of wine, but existence, as the kids say, and family and friends and work and income and supply for our retirement years. And we've got all that. Since we've got all that, why not give pleasure to the one who has given it to us? It's kind of a no-brainer. But beyond this, we need to be thankful for our own good. For our own good. You and I are terribly prone to be self-centered, taken up with ourselves, taken up with our feelings, taken up with our needs and our wants and our problems, and that takes up a lot of our day. And when we look beyond ourselves and focus on others, and especially on the one who made us, who owns us, who provides for us, and who loves us, then we get beyond our self-love. And we get into some other love. And that's a healthy thing. And God knows it. Hence all the commands. All the commands for us to worship and to praise and to give thanks are not really for God's sake, but for our sake. So that we will put our attention and our focus outside of ourselves. And that's a healing thing for us. We're about to gather at the table of the Lord Jesus. This is a very focused thanksgiving, in essence, for the death and the sacrifice of Jesus for our sins. As you've heard, I like a singer by the name of Robin Mark. And he wrote a song called Heaven's Gates, which we have sung here from time to time, which I won't sing right now, but one of the verses goes like this, and I hope you're paying attention to the words, because to me, words matter a lot when we sing. He says, "Now we know there was no other way to release this world from sin. You endured the cross, despised the shame, opened heaven's gates so that we might enter in." May this be something that all of us truly value and appreciate and are thankful for. Shall we pray?